Have you ever had someone look you straight in the eye and say, trust me? Because in my experience, those are usually the last two words that you want to hear. It's right up there with, this won't hurt a bit, or don't worry, I've read the instructions. Or my personal favorite, I know a shortcut. You know you're about to have a story. Today we're talking about trust, how long it takes to build and how quickly it can disappear, and why one of the world's largest professional services firms has become a case study in leadership. Welcome back to Lead Between the Lines, the show where every leader has a story. I'm your host, Steve Coleman. Whether you're leading a crew of 5, a department of 50, or an organization of 5,000, today's episode is about something that every leader depends on: trust. Without it, leadership just becomes management. Management becomes supervision, and supervision becomes policing. And let's be honest, nobody signs up for a leadership role because they dream of becoming the hall monitor for grown adults. Recently, KPMG Australia has continued dealing with the fallout from a major ethics scandal. Now, this wasn't simply an accounting error. They didn't just forget to attach the spreadsheet before hitting send. We've all done that, right? Usually it's about 30 seconds after writing, please see the attached. The situation involved allegations that confidential information was improperly used to help win business. And the result? Government contracts were affected. The firm's reputation suffered. Leadership changed. And, of course, investigations followed. And suddenly, one of the most respected professional services firms in the world found itself trying to rebuild something that's much harder to recover than revenue: trust. Now, here's what really caught my attention. KPMG didn't suddenly forget how to do accounting. Its consultants didn't wake up one morning and lose 20 years of experience. The talent was still there. The expertise was still there. What changed wasn't capability, it was credibility. And credibility is leadership's currency. Now, when people stop believing you, they stop following you. They may still work for you and they may still report to you, but they'll stop believing in you. And that distinction really matters. This topic really struck me because just last month in our Crestcom leadership sessions, we spent an entire module discussing trust. Not budgets, not strategic planning, not KPIs, trust. Because before people decide whether they agree with your vision, they first decide whether they trust the person presenting it. Now, during that session, we explored 3 simple ideas: trust yourself, trust others, and be trustworthy. That's simple to say and much harder to live. Let's start with trusting yourself. Every leader eventually walks into a situation where nobody has the answer. You've been promoted. Everyone turns toward you and someone asks, so what do we do? And inside your own head, you're thinking, I was actually hoping one of you knew. Welcome to leadership. Trusting yourself doesn't mean believing you'll always be right. It means believing you'll learn, adapt, and figure it out. The strongest leaders I've met aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones who are comfortable saying, I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out together. Ironically, admitting that you don't know everything often builds more trust than pretending you do. People can spot fake confidence from a mile away, especially your team, and definitely your teenagers, if you have any. The second lesson is trusting others. Now, this is where many new leaders really struggle. They think leadership means doing everything themselves. checking every email, approving every decision, fixing every mistake, answering every question. Congratulations, you just promoted yourself to the busiest employee in the company. That's exhaustion with a nicer title. If your team can't make a decision unless you're standing beside them, then you haven't built a team. You've built dependency. Now, trust means giving people ownership. Sometimes they'll exceed your expectations. Sometimes they'll make mistakes. And that's just part of learning. If you never let people make decisions, they'll never become the leaders that you're hoping they'll be. The third lesson is being trustworthy. Now, this one sounds obvious unless you really think about it. Being trustworthy isn't something that you say, it's something that people experience. Do your actions consistently match your words? When you make a promise, do people believe that you'll keep it? When you say you'll follow up, do you? When someone brings you bad news, do you thank them for telling you or make them wish they'd kept it to themselves? Consistency builds trust. Inconsistency builds uncertainty, and uncertainty creates anxiety. Now, people perform at their best when they know what to expect from their leader. Now, here's the difficult reality. Trust is incredibly expensive to earn and unbelievably cheap to lose. Think about your own life. When someone lies to you once, you don't just question that one conversation. You start wondering about every conversation you've ever had with them. That's how trust works. Organizations are no different. You can spend decades building a reputation, but one poor decision can change how people see you overnight. You know, trust is a lot like Wi Fi. You barely notice it when it's working, but the second it disappears, everyone suddenly becomes an expert. Is the router plugged in? Try turning it off and back on. Maybe stand closer to the window. Leadership feels the same way. When trust disappears, meetings become quieter. People stop sharing ideas. Conversations move into hallways instead of into boardrooms. People begin protecting themselves instead of helping one another. So, how do leaders rebuild trust? Well, it's not with slogans, and it's definitely not with posters in the lunchroom, and it's not with another value statement printed in a fancy font. I have never met anyone who walked past an inspirational poster and suddenly thought, you know what? Everything's different now. Trust is rebuilt one behavior at a time, one honest conversation, one promise kept, one difficult decision handled with integrity, or one admission that you made a mistake, repeated consistently, day after day. Eventually, people begin believing again. Here's a question worth asking yourself. Would your team describe you as predictable? Not predictable in a boring kind of way. Predictable in the sense that they know what you'll stand for. They know you'll be fair. They know you'll tell the truth. They know that you'll support them when things get difficult because people don't hide problems from leaders that they trust. They hide them from leaders they fear. And when leaders only hear good news, it's usually because no one feels safe enough to bring them the bad news. And that is a dangerous place to lead from. So here's the thought I'd like to leave you with today. Leadership isn't built on authority. It's built on trust. Your title may get people to listen the first time. Trust is what gets them to follow you the second, the third, and the 100th time. Every conversation you have, every commitment that you make, every decision you take, every interaction with your team, You're either making a deposit into your trust account or you're making a withdrawal. So the question is, when people think about your leadership, what's the balance? Thank you for joining me for another episode of Lead Between the Lines. If this conversation made you think differently about leadership, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's making a difference in the lives of others. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing a leader has done that instantly earned your trust or instantly lost it? Leave a comment and let's continue the conversation. Until next time, remember, every leader has a story. Make yours worth telling.